Five Nights at Treasure Island, the FNAF Fan Game about Mickey Mouse, yeah, that one dickhead from Disney, so called the first FNAF Fan Game. First initially created by NR 1996, then remade about 6 fucking times by 3 different people and an entire team which is mainly known as the Radiance Team. Hey guys, I'm Glitchy, and in this video I will be reviewing the horror point-and-click requel of Five Nights at Treasure Islands called Oblitus Casa, made by the Radiance Team, the same people who made the Five Nights at Treasure Islands remaster back in 2020. This game is a requel of the Five Nights at Treasure Islands franchise, which means it's both a sequel and a prequel to the Five Nights at Treasure Islands franchise. I don't know how that works, but alright. The game was released on November 28th, 2022, but then just faded into the abyss. But then it was put back on Game Jolt on December 2nd, 2022. The only reason why it was removed is that developers just wanted to fix some major bugs in the game, since the release build was very buggy. However, the game is being recoded because the original game file is apparently really hard to work with. The recode will include better programming, smoother gameplay, graphic variation in post-night, near bug-free releases, and Game Jolt API encrypted save data, and even more. The recode is being released around December or 2023, since the early footage of the recode contains a Christmas tree in it, just in case you guys don't celebrate Christmas in December. And it's currently December, so okay, this is a really shit explanation. Apparently, Oblitus Casa was originally going to be a sequel to Five Nights at Treasure Islands Remastered 2.0, but then it was abandoned, then brought back to life by the Radiance Team. But I genuinely wonder what Oblitus Casa would look like if it was actually released by then. There is actually one character that was modded for the 2015 version, which is the Cabin Face, who appears as a Casa exclusive later in the game. Anyway, let's move on to the story of the game. The story is, it's been 1 year since the events that took place at Treasure Island. 1 year hasn't been enough, however. You still can't get what happened out of your head. Being reminded day after day, the same questions and the same answers you failed to provide. The island calls your name one last time. Can you piece your fractured mind back together before it's too late? So I think you can pretty much already understand what's going on. The game takes place a year after the investigation at Treasure Island, and the protagonist has some level of PTSD from it. Anyway, let's talk about the gameplay of this game. When you start the game, you get a small cutscene which is a tape sound recording between Jake and Dr. Jared Rowley. Jake was declared missing in 2003 during the Discovery Island case. A year later, on July 23rd, 2004, he was found and then taken into custody as he is a suspect in the disappearance of Greg McLaughlin and Lisa Burtz. Why the f are these names so hard to read? And Henry Miller. Then Dr. Jared Rowley starts interrogating Jake, asking him questions about his time at Discovery Island. However, he didn't feel comfortable answering the questions. But Dr. Jared Rowley tries to convince Jake to answer, as far as to mention how it affected his life and how he needs to forget all about it and leave it in the past. When Jake starts to answer Jared's questions about the cabin, the tape ends. I actually really like this cutscene. The fact that Jake stays quiet and doesn't feel very comfortable answering the questions Dr. Jared asks him says a lot about his character. But one part that confused me is that they mentioned the Discovery Island case. I thought it was a Treasure Island, but maybe I'm just missing something here. Now that I think about it, in the first cutscene of Five Nights at Treasure Island 2020, it does mention that the name Treasure Island is just what people call it. I don't know, maybe they're 2 separate islands or something. Then we get to see the main menu, where you select the nights and adjust the settings. I think that the fact that you can play any night without needing to reset your data or modify your save file is a pretty sweet idea. There's a grind mode option yet again. For some reason I've mostly seen this exact feature in Five Nights at Treasure Island's fan games, and I don't really know the reasoning behind it. On night 1, we play as Jake from the first cutscene of the game. You can look at the cameras, go to the attic and look at the notepad. In the cameras, you can look at all of the cameras if that was obvious, play audio and flash the light of the camera. Playing the audio will be useful for Willy, but the flash and going to the attic will be used on later nights. The notepad can have useful information about the characters in it, but can also be used to get rid of a certain character. I feel like you should have been able to look at different characters' mechanics for those who are just generally confused or just forget what a certain character does. Willy Wiener works like just any character from FNAF 6. Lure him away from you with the audio lure feature in the cameras. Belial will slowly draw herself onto the notepad. All you have to do is erase her and you'll send her to the back rooms. These mechanics are pretty good honestly, and mostly fun. Woody's mechanic might be plain, but I'm a big fan of Belial's mechanic. It makes the player think that the notepad is helpful, when in reality it's additionally deadly. When the clock strikes 6 AM, a cutscene plays showing that it's daytime. Then we're sent to a sewer for some reason. It says you are not alone. Listen closely to make it out of the tunnels. Turn your light off to listen in the halls. They are searching for you. Avoid them if possible. Use the light if they get too close. If it doesn't work, run. I'm gonna be completely honest, I generally never understood this part. Most of the time I quite literally just guessed where I had to go, and whenever I saw I'd spam click just to run away. I never understood the strategy that was also made for this, so I won't be mentioning the sewers in later nights. So if anyone has a method for it, comment it down below. Oh yeah, not to mention, it smells like absolute dog shit in there. If you die, you get to play this post-mortem game. In the game, you have to find 3 heads on the cameras to go back to life. However, there are some characters you need to take care of. These characters are called the Shades. But before, I need to explain what items you can use. You can use the cameras to look at the shades and find the heads. And you also have this plushie called YBF, which is short for your best friend. Alongside a needle, and there's also a light you can turn on the left and right side of your office. Let's talk about the shades now. The mechanics are pretty basic honestly. Shade photonegative Mickey will appear on the left or right side of the office. All you need to do is stab the shit out of YBF with the needle. Shade Oswald works the same as Shade photonegative Mickey, but he'll only appear on the left side of your office. Shade Minnie will appear at random in your office. When she appears, flip the monitor up. Shade Goofy will appear on the left or right side of your office. When he does, turn the light on him. Failing to do so will remove your YBF temporarily. Shade Sadie will jumpscare you if you don't get out of the post-mortem game quick enough. She'll also kill you if you stab your best friend plushie too often when no one's around. And Shade Donald Duck will appear on the cameras, and you'll see a ghost of his head hovering over one of the mouse's heads you're finding. If you click on the head while his head is still on it, he'll start quacking your fucking face, making it unable for you to look at the cameras or use the your best friend plushie. The idea of playing a game of purgatory and the prizes being brought back to life is really unique. I'm pretty sure the shades are references to the original characters in Finest Treasure Island, which means if anything they're trying to torture Jake, and the minigame is like a hellscape to him. If you pass the minigame, you'll go back to the cabin and continue the night, but if you die, you'll have to start all over again. The only night that you can't play the minigame is night 5, as it's a very special night which I'll explain later. In night 2, Daisy and Corrupted Face are active. Daisy will appear in the cameras. If she's on a camera that you have to use the camera flash. If you fail to do so, Daisy will screech in your office, making you unable to use your cameras. The Corrupted Face will spawn in the attic, followed by this audio cue. Once you go inside the attic, you're equipped with a lighter. You'll have to shine the lighter in Corrupted Face's face to make him go away. Don't know why the he's scared of fire, but hey, who isn't at this point? In night 3, Photonegative Minnie is active. She'll slowly move towards you in the cameras. You can shine the camera light at her to make her step back. And on night 4, both Pete and Dippy are active. Pete will make this sound cue in the attic. If you go there and see him, go back to the cabin immediately. Dippy works just like Willy, except if he eventually reaches outside your window and you make direct eye contact with him, he'll run away and break your window, causing you to die. The night section is pretty fun. The mechanics are simple but also unique at the same time, and that's something I'm a big fan of. Some characters could genuinely catch you off guard, which makes this section generally horrifying. The tools that you're given are tools you don't usually get in a FNAF fan game, of course excluding the cameras, but it pretty much just shows how creative this game really is. The post-mortem section is creative, but things happen just way too quickly. The characters are poorly explained, the AI level is too high, basically the characters just move too quickly, and it isn't that frightening. The concept of this has so much potential, but there are just so many flaws in it. The tunnel section? F the tunnel section. It's so horribly explained and just confusing in general. One thing that I could recommend adding to the tunnel section is maybe a map so you can actually know where you're going. So now let's talk about night 5. After you escape the tunnels in night 4, a cutscene plays. We're walking up to a room inside the tunnels, and as soon as we turn on our lighter, we see, oh look! It's Hourglass for Finest Treasure Island 2020. So yeah, Hourglass is in this game. He was actually the enemy in the tunnel section. I just didn't want to tell you guys he was, so it could be a little surprise. So, we actually fucking burned him alive in the game. Too bad, I guess. Then we skipped to this cutscene of Mother just talking shit about Jake and the other people who have visited Treasure or Discovery Island. She's also a character seen in FNAF Treasure Island 2020. But finally, we start Night 5, which introduces two new characters, Mick and Ingblot Face. But before I explain the mechanics of the characters, I want to let you guys know, if it wasn't obvious by the low amount of characters, this is a boss fight between you, or Jake, and Mother. Mother controls everything Mick does. Ingblot's Face is just kind of an additional character, I guess. Anyway, Mick will slowly come towards you. However, there are two ways you have to stop him. If he has white pupils showing, you'll have to use the camera flash, but if he doesn't have any pupils, you have to use the audio lure to lure him away from you. Sometimes he can go to the attic. If he's not on the cameras and you hear something from the attic, don't go there. Ingblot Face makes the same sound cue that Corrupted Face makes, but instead of shining him with a lighter, every time you shine him with a lighter, he switches positions in the attic. You have to keep on shining the lighter on him until he leaves. Once the time is 3 AM, the screen starts flickering. This is because Mick is evolving into its second phase, which it looks like, what the fuck is that? So now Mick has evolved. They are way more painful to deal with. They are twice as fast, and having to deal with Ingblot Face at the same time is just a huge disadvantage to the player. Night 5 is generally really difficult. It actually took me a lot of attempts to beat. Some of you guys might even remember the time I streamed my attempt at beating the night, but I didn't even manage to. But eventually I beat it. When Night 5 is over, there's a cutscene showing Mick with an orange ambience, which I'm going to be guessing that the cabin is being burned down to the ground. After that, the credits roll. And ladies and gentlemen, that's Oblitus Casa. As you can tell, a lot of people worked on this game, and I would like to thank all of those people who put their hard work into this game. However, that's the main game. There is a Night 6 which isn't really that great. It's just Night 4 but harder. Could have been more improved, but also isn't canon. There's also an extras menu where you can look at the characters and information about them, unused and behind the scenes content, jump scares, and you can rewatch the cutscenes. But that's not all. There's also a custom night where you can customize the AI level of the main characters, and also the custom night exclusives. You can also play these challenges, which are based off 4 creepypastas: Jeff the Killer, Slenderman, Smile Dog, and Eyeless Jack. After you beat all of them, you can get another list of challenges, including a custom night exclusive from each one. The custom night exclusives are Cabin Face, which can be unlocked by beating Night 6, his mechanics to grab his eyeball from the attic. Photo Negative Mickey can be unlocked by beating the Jeff the Killer challenge, his mechanic is to shut off a camera if he's in your office. Celester can be unlocked by beating the Slenderman challenge, his mechanic is to look away from him if he's in your office. Oswald can be unlocked by beating the Smile Dog challenge, his mechanic is the same as Photo Negative Mickey's, if he's in your office, shut off a camera. Ingblot Mick can be unlocked by beating the Eyeless Jack challenge, their mechanic is to blink if they're inside your office. And finally, the Corruptus can be unlocked after beating the Nightmare challenge, which is basically beating a custom night of all of the main game characters on the maximum difficulty. His mechanic is not stare at his duplicates. But last thing, upon beating the true Nightmare challenge, you get a cutscene of a conversation between Jake and Henry, the person who has been writing the info on the notepad. And also that one guy who was stuck in Pirates Caverns FNAF Treasure Island 2020. So my final thoughts are that Night 5 was very cool. I do really like the idea of a boss fight and even a midnight event that happens to the character. Mick's character might look really simple, but Ingblot's face looks really disgusting, but in a good way. The extra content this game gave is an over-exaggeration. I'm honestly surprised at how much extra content there is in this game, which I'm very happy about, as fan games don't really tend to add much extra content or make the custom night more fun and giving a reason for people to try it out, other than just speedrunning the thing. The challenges are really cool. The fact that they made references to creepypastas is a very unique, and it does make sense for them to be here, because the original source behind the FNAF Treasure Island series is quite literally a creepypasta called Abandoned by Disney. I generally love custom night exclusives. I've played multiple games such as FNAF Chuck E. Cheese and Bundy's Barnyard Safety Violation that has had this feature. It's genuinely a really nice touch to the gameplay, and again, as I said, it makes it so there's a reason to actually play the custom night. So that's all I have to say about Oblitus Casa. To answer the title's question, yes, it is good. I still can't wait for the recode, and it's gonna have even more extra content and also some fixes to the gameplay. So yeah, if